I am recording this a mere 24 hours after the latest Nintendo Direct, and it still feels surreal. To see a long-awaited upgrade to my favorite trilogy in fiction was already more than I could ask for. To see the future of the series on top of that was nothing short of a dream come true. Suffice to say, I am excited once again to dive into the worlds of Xenoblade, but I'm not as excited as I thought I'd be, maybe not as much as I should be. Part of that is just because I'm not as much of a gamer these days. I've been through a lot of life changes in the past year, many of which are good, in case you're worried, but yeah, good or bad, they've been making my enthusiasm for video games not as high as it was before. But the fact remains that every single one of these announcements didn't blow me away as I expected. In fact, they've even got me a little nervous. Of course, I'm relieved that the Switch 2 editions are happening, but boy, are they really weird. Xenoblade 1 added fully voiced heart-to-hearts, which I am so delighted to hear, as well as a whole racing mode for some reason, which is utter lunacy. It's as if Monolith Soft didn't know what to add that made sense until someone in the back whispered, "You know what'd be really funny?" And then they actually did it! But as much as I love all of the memes and the clips about it, it's not something that makes me want to jump back into the game. And that's pretty much how I feel about the other new modes as well. Don't get me wrong, I am all for Xenoblade having minigames. I really enjoy 3's DLC roguelite mode, for example. But as far as paying $10, I'm much more interested in the other enhancements. And this is where I start getting nervous. Recently, I made a 20-minute video about the potential of Xenoblade 2's upgrade, so looking at this list here gives me some feelings. Like, does this mean we're not getting quality of life? I tell ya, I would much rather have that than any of the things listed here. So if this is truly all we're getting and there isn't a definitive edition in the future, I'm not gonna lie, that would be massively disappointing. Because even if you don't like Xenoblade 2, wouldn't you want it to improve? Unless you're just being petty, I don't see how anyone would be opposed to the game getting better. And considering they're adding brand new content, it would be really weird to not touch up the game that's already there, even if it's just a little bit. And to be fair, these lists are not the end-all be-all. The Direct barely promoted the Ether Jets, and turns out there's an entire Grand Prix. Hell, Animal Crossing barely promoted its quality of life updates. People had to find out on social media and patch notes. And if you're a nerd like me and dig deep enough on the eShop, you'll find that Xenoblade 2 has the heftiest upgrade at a whopping total of 30 gigabytes. So yeah, there could very well be more in store for both Xenoblade 2 and 3, just like how people are still finding new features and voice lines in Xenoblade 1. I am not doubting it by any means, I just hate how nebulous things are at the moment. Like, is Pyra and Mythra getting a new outfit really that substantial compared to the entire party of Xenoblade 1? Okay, fine, it is. But Pyra should have gotten her Smash outfit anyway. It just feels wrong to have only Mythra's. So if it isn't the Smash outfit, then what the heck? And if it is, then what does that mean for Mythra? Clearly the most interesting part here is the new rare blade, and considering it's only one, I doubt it's a Xenoblade 3 character. I assumed Noah and Mio would come together if that ever happened, similar to Shulk and Fiora. I mean, if it did have to be only one Xenoblade 3 character, I would want it to be Senna. I don't know, I feel like her quest could be really cute with her allusions to Brigid. If I had to make an actual prediction though, I think it's going to be one of Xenoblade 2's antagonists. I'm not going to spoil who for all of the upcoming newcomers we're about to have, but I'm sure most of you watching can figure it out. Who knows, maybe they'll show up as a Xenoblade 3 hero instead. They gotta go big or go home if they keep ducking Moamba. On paper, Xenoblade 3 is definitely the upgrade I'm most looking forward to, if only because of the supposed newly voiced event scenes. Yeah, speaking of nebulous, I don't think any of us has any sincere idea of what that could possibly mean. I have seen theories of it being the camp dialogue, but then why isn't it worded similarly to Xenoblade 1's Heart to Hearts? I would like to assume that they are full-on cutscenes that are potentially relevant to the main story. This could be a nice opportunity to either tie a few minor loose ends we've all been speculating on, or perhaps subtly foreshadow Xenoblade Genesis. And if I happen to be completely off base here, that's okay. I'm just excited to see what form these ambiguously described scenes are. But that's exactly why this is so weird. I'm excited for ambiguous dialogue. I'm not excited to play any of these games again, and maybe I will be soon, but right now it's hard to be when the Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade 1 has already proven to have similar flaws to Xenoblade X. Not as notable for sure, but still, they are there. That tells me that we may as well expect the same with the rest of them. And look, am I affected by this personally? Not really. I've barely noticed the visual hiccups that everybody keeps hating on. But it's the fact that they exist. The fact that there has to be an asterisk. The fact that we were all excited for how beautiful Xenoblade would be on Switch 2, only for it to be sloppy and clumsy. It's baffling. There's no excuse for it. It doesn't matter if it affects me. The community at large deserves better. Not to mention, it's even worse for newcomers. Each of these games on Switch 2 are $70, and since they don't come with their expansions, Xenoblade 2 and 3 are practically 100s. Yes, we've hit the triple digits now. That means if you want to experience this trilogy with your new $450 plus console, well, get ready to drop at least 270 more. A niche franchise like this should not be a luxury. We should be lowering the barrier to entry because the more people that can try it, the better. And thankfully, these Switch 2 editions were not alone. No. They were just the prologue to Xenoblade Genesis. We Xenoblade fans are spoiled with how consistent this series is, and so forgive me for taking advantage of that spoiledness, because as of this moment, I do not love what I see of Genesis. There's plenty about it I do like, and we'll be getting to soon, but there are a few things I'm skeptical of that I want to get out of the way. Now let me remind you, it has only been 24 hours for me. This is purely a knee-jerk reaction to what has been confirmed to be the early moments of the game. So please don't take these criticisms to heart whether you agree or disagree. To put it bluntly, let's just rip off the band-aid, because this might be a boiling hot take, but when compared to the previous trilogy, I think these are the weakest character designs. The girls are really cute, the protagonist by far is the strongest in my opinion, but overall, I don't feel very inspired. The attire in particular is quite bland, and I don't even like the little new mascot dude. Nope, don't like it. And this is honestly shocking to me considering this is the same artist behind Masha, who has one of my favorite designs in the whole series. I thought that I would at least like it equally, but at this point, I am firmly disappointed. Sure, the previous artist was divisive because of a few excessive designs, but anyone celebrating their departure is an idiot. The sexualization was always a matter of direction. I mean, how stupid is it to hate on them for a few designs, but then give them no credit for all the other popular ones? Xenoblade 2 had plenty of rightfully beloved designs, while Xenoblade 3 struck the perfect balance by making everything a bit more modest while still retaining that level of glamour. But at least so far, with what very little evidence we have, Genesis is close to the word I'd use to describe these characters. The right word I'd use is generic. This is the type of straightforward modesty I would expect from a darker or realistic aesthetic, not the most bright and colorful Xenoblade game. Even worse, and this is hyperbolic, bear with me, I feel like I've been warped into a timeline where Monolith Soft looked at all of the demonization and fear-mongering over gooners, took places like Twitter way too seriously, and now it's been so sanitized, it may as well be any other random anime trailer the internet complains about anyway. There, I said it, it's out there, and again, it's not the designer's fault. They were obviously directed this way since most of these characters go to the same academy, but even then, it didn't have to be that safe. Kevis and Agnus were militaries, and they still had flashier designs. I've seen far too many people compare this to Fire Emblem, but I'm sorry, the character design doesn't hold a torch to Three Houses, and especially Fortune's Weaves. I left that trailer enamored by at least a dozen characters, while so far Genesis has only got me with 2. But mind you, that very comparison has to be the most frustrating criticism that we've all heard by now. Why does this look like Fire Emblem? Why does this look more like Fire Emblem than Fortune's Weaves? I'm already tired of hearing this. There's literally only one Fire Emblem game that arguably looks like this, that being Three Houses, of course, and it's not like it or Persona created anime school life. Modern or medieval, high schools and academies have been an anime trope for multiple decades, and that's the part I can empathize with. I do agree that this isn't anywhere near a fresh or unique premise, especially for what is at least marketed as a new era of Xenoblade. Now hold on, I know what you're saying. The game isn't even about the Academy, it probably won't even last past chapter 1, haha, why are people so mad when it's totally not a long-term thing? And look, I hear you there, but there's problems with that. One, even if the Academy is a short arc, that just solidifies this trailer as a bad first impression. That does not magically make it better. And 2, this is only a theory because it kind of sort of happens in the series one time. There isn't any genuine reason to believe this. You just want to believe it because similarly, you don't want the Academy either. So how can you blame others for rushing to conclusions when your only comeback is rushing to conclusions? At strictly face value, it doesn't really feel to me that we've gone forward. It's more like we've stepped aside. Like if they instead marketed this as a spin-off, I wouldn't be questioning it. I know I've been awfully harsh, but I just hate to see any piece of media become a little more generic, all for the sake of being as mainstream and inoffensive as possible. I'm not saying that's the case with Xenoblade Genesis, I just simply cannot wait until my skepticism is proven wrong. For instance, if they do make it turn-based, or they add a parry system, I'm not saying that'd be bad, but my eyes will be rolled. Alright, enough of that. Let's start gushing about everything else. First and foremost, I owe everyone an apology. In my Nintendo Direct reaction that I highly recommend watching if you'd like to see a hoot, I was so focused on absorbing the setting and the dialogue that I neglected to highlight the most important part of the game to me. Something I've been asking for ever since Xenoblade 2. We finally have a full-fledged Xenoblade game that is led by a woman. The series has always flirted with this idea, most notably with Laura in the Torna DLC. But up until now, no matter how blatantly essential the girls have been in these stories, the default protagonist would always be the boy. Finally, fucking finally, they committed. And I could not be happier about it. Because let me tell you, if you thought that rant was bad, you have no idea how annoyed I would be if the new beginning for Xenoblade still had me playing as a twink with a red sword. Instead, we're getting to play as Eleanor, or at least who we believe is named Eleanor based on her Japanese name. I'm so glad that her design seems to be popular. I actually have a soft spot for short-length, pink-haired girls, but admittedly, at first glance, I am more of a fan of Liesel from Xenoblade X. Remember her? I was surprised to see a resemblance this soon, but whatever, she's cute, her weapon's cool, and I look forward to her journey. Because believe it or not, I am a fan of the Academy. Yeah, I may not like how cliché it is, but I'm not gonna pretend I can't enjoy it. After all, I've always wanted Xenoblade to experiment more with the indoors. We all know how good they are with these wide open fields, but if they want to push their world building to the next level, they've gotta have those interior settings. Not just dungeons, but like actual facilities that the citizens go to and gather at and foster community. So here's another hot take for you. I do want this to last. I don't want this to be a fake out like many of you seem to want. When I think about New LA and all of the colonies in Xenoblade 3, I am so confident that Monolith Soft would be able to fill this academy with a bunch of engaging side quests and NPCs. Yes, it sucks that it's cliché and reminds you of another recent Nintendo game, but for Xenoblade, this is something new with reason to be confident in. Regardless of how that shapes out, we have to talk about the shape of the world. Some may call it a hollow earth or a Dyson sphere. I prefer to call it a hamster wheel. I cannot believe that some people didn't notice this, because to me, it is unquestionably the most striking part of the trailer. Not only do I love it for elevating the scope in such a clever fashion, I also love it for building upon the most valuable asset of Xenoblade 1. No matter where you are on the Bionis or Mechonis, you will catch a glimpse of each Titan's body parts, and thus you get a legitimate sense of how far you ventured and how much farther there is to go. Now imagine playing Genesis, looking straight up at the sky, and realizing, oh shit, we're a long way from school. That alone is making me salivate for the lore, and thank goodness for that, because I don't really care about the plot yet. We barely have an idea, of course, but as per usual, Monolith Soft is leaving so many crumbs for us to speculate on. Just to name a few, there's the word anima, the vengeance of a fallen god, the light of 6 suns, the glimmering colors of purple and emerald, the core crystal-like shapes, the visual parallels to Ouroboros, the spooky girl having the same markings as Neil Nail, a peculiar mountain that was mentioned on a radio. There may not be Napon and mechs yet, but anyone with a keen eye will spot plenty of allusions. There's certainly enough to talk in circles for hours, but I'm past those days. I at least don't see a point in doing so for such an early trailer. Besides, after seeing how many people hate on 3 and X for not resembling their fanfiction, I'd rather just wait for Monolith Soft to take me on the ride themselves. All I'll say about it is, I hope the Fallen God line isn't who we immediately think of. I doubt it is, but the mere possibility frightens me. It's already over and done with, we've gotta move on. But we can't end this spiel without talking about the big one. The change I've been begging for, on my knees, forehead to the floor, ever since this IP was localized. I have had an unwarrantedly deep hatred for the word Chronicles. The original title is just Xenoblade. That's all we ever needed. There's no point in generic filler words. And so naturally, I am very pleased it has been replaced with Genesis, if only to make it clear as day that newcomers are welcome to begin right here. No need to play the trilogy, and no need to call that trilogy the Chronicles. Nope, I'm sorry, I absolutely refuse. Whew, wow, for a basic impression video that was way more dramatic than I expected it to be. And we haven't even seen the gameplay yet. Trust me, I do not look forward to that discourse. But from the little that we do know about Xenoblade Genesis, tell me, how are you feeling about it? Are you all aboard the hype train, or are you a bit more cautious like I am? And do the Switch 2 editions have you itching for a playthrough? Will you point and laugh at me if there are no patch notes for Xenoblade 2? Don't worry, I'll allow it. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for being a part of the Xenoblade fandom, and I hope you're able to continue this journey alongside me. But above all else, please keep being good to others, and have yourself a good day. Bye bye!